Okay, so today my goal is to help you feel ready for our upcoming quiz, which is over 9.1 to 9.3. Please pull out your red pens and we're going to fill in some information that is very important that we'll need to know for the quiz. First things, does anyone remember the distance from the center to any point on a circle? You are correct. That is our radius. All right, so go ahead and use your red pen to fill that in. Let's look at the next one. The distance across a circle through the center. That is the diameter. All right, the next one, the distance around the outside of the circle. Circumference. Okay, perimeter is going to be if it's not a circle, but when it's the circle, it's called the circumference. And finally, for circumference of a circle, I have taught you two formulas. One is when we have the diameter, and one is when we have the radius. Raise your hand if you know one of them. Miley, what would it be?
C equals pi times d.
Excellent. Now remind me again, guys, how many radiuses does it take to equal one diameter? Two. So doesn't it make sense for us to say C equals 2 times pi times r? Okay, once again, because two radiuses is the same as one diameter. All right, another thing that's important for us to know is what is the value of pi? There's two. What's the decimal for pi? 3.14, okay? That's not the only one. There's another one which is a fraction. What's the one that's a fraction? 22 over 7. Now, you're going to need to know some formulas for the quiz. First one, does anyone remember area of a circle?
Pi r squared.
You are correct. So we're going to write in A equals pi times r squared. What's the difference between a circle and a semicircle? One is cut in half. So what should I do with that formula right there? Very good. We're going to cut it in half, or as you said, we'll divide it by 2. So we get pi r squared divided by 2. So if you memorize this one right here for the area of a circle, it should be pretty easy to remember the area of a semicircle. Does anybody remember the formula for area of a triangle?
S squared.
No. It starts with A equals 1/2
BH.
BH. What does the B and the H stand for?
Times height.
Correct. So you're going to take half of the base times the height. Next up, area of a square. Very good. Okay, I think of S because S also starts for square. It's S squared. You're going to take each of the sides and multiply them together. Final one, area of a rectangle. You're still taking both of the sides and multiplying them together, but what are the two different sides called? Length and width. Very good. Okay, now I'm going to put a little cursive L for the length times the width, but remember how we talked about it before? You could put a capital L and a capital W. Just make sure you know area is length times width. Okay, in just a little bit we are going to make some flashcards that will help us to study and know those formulas really, really well. For this is what we did at the very beginning of 9.1. Find the diameter. Which one's longer, the diameter or the radius? The diameter is longer. It gave us the radius. It says the radius is 5 meters. So what would my diameter be? How'd you figure that out? Okay, she multiplied it by 2, or you just have to double it. Okay, because if you think about it, this is the radius, but I wanted to know all the way across, so that would have been 10 meters. Very good. Number 2 is doing just the opposite. What does it give me on my circle all the way across? That's the diameter, but I don't want the diameter, I want the radius. What would the radius be? 12. How'd you figure that out? You divided it by 2 or you cut it in half. So the radius would be 12 inches. All right, next up, find the circumference. What does circumference mean? Distance around the entire circle. So I am trying to figure out how long that entire circle, the distance around it would be. What does it give me to start with? The diameter or the radius? It does give me the radius, okay? So let's just identify the radius is 21 millimeters. What is the formula for using circumference when I know the radius?
C equals 2 pi.
Very good. C equals 2 times pi times r. Does it tell me specifically what to use for pi? No, so you can use whatever you want. What would you guys prefer?
3.14.
All right, let's plug in 3.14. And what's the radius?
21.
21. All you have to do at this point is just multiply those three numbers together. When you multiplied that together, Emma, what did you get?
131.88.
Very good. Does it tell me to round it?
Yes.
Yes, round to the nearest whole number. Hope, what is the whole number that you see there? Very good, because remember, it's whatever comes to the left of that decimal point, all right? So then you just got to look to the number next to you to see if it stays the same or if it should bump up. What would it be if I rounded this, class?
132.
Very good. And what are the units? Millimeters. Should I square the units?
No.
I heard yes and no. When do I have to square the units?
When you're finding the area.
Only when you're finding the area. Remember, the area is all the space in between a shape. Am I trying to find all the space right here? No. Remember, all I was doing is finding the distance around, which means it is not units squared. It's just the regular unit. So the answer is going to be 132 millimeters. Let's look at the next one. What does it give me? It gives me the diameter is 7 feet. Now, there is a formula that we know for circumference with the diameter. What would it be?
C equals pi
C
times
equals
D.
pi times D.
C equals pi times D. Try this one on your own. Hayden, what did you plug in for pi?
3.14.
What's your diameter?
7.
When you multiply it together, Hayden, what do you get?
21.98.
Rome, when you round that, what do you get? Not millimeters.
It's just feet.
Feet, okay? Always go back to see what it looks like inside of there. The correct answer is 22 feet. Raise your hand if you got that. All right, nice work. All right, for this next one, it asks us to find the perimeter of the semicircle. What does perimeter mean? The distance around. So I'm looking for this whole distance at the bottom and then this distance around the outside of that. What is this shape called? A semicircle. Very good. Let's identify first. Does it give us the radius or the diameter? Radius. Let's write that down. The radius is 4 centimeters, which means the diameter is 8 centimeters. So we can easily identify, if I needed to, that this distance at the bottom is 8. Does it give me the distance going around the outside of a circle? What is the formula for the distance around the outside of a circle? Not the area of a circle. Okay, I'm looking for circumference. Remember, circumference is the perimeter, just the distance on the outside.
Pi r divided by 2.
Okay, C equals, Rodney just told us, 2 times pi times r. All right, because it gave us the radius, we're going to just go ahead and start with the formula for that. But it's not a full circle, it's a half a circle. So what should I do to that? Divide it by 2. Do you guys see anything that can cancel out? Yes, the 2's can cancel out. So I'm left with just C equals pi times r. Hayden, what is pi?
3.14.
AJ, what's my radius?
4.
Miley, multiply it together, and what do you get? Very good. 12.56 what? Centimeters. Is that my final answer? No, look, this is what we just figured out. This distance out here is 12.56 centimeters. But remember, I don't just want this distance. I want the perimeter around the entire semicircle. So we talked about this a little while ago. It's been a few days. To find the perimeter, you have to take the circumference plus the what? The diameter. So we just discovered that the circumference was 12.56 plus the diameter. What would the diameter be of this area down here? How many? 8. Add those two together and that will give you your answer. When you do that, Rome, what do you get?
20.56.
Correct. Does it ask us to round it? No. What are my units?
Centimeters.
Should I square them?
No.
No, why not?
But that's only finding the area.
That's only when you're finding the area, and instead we are finding the perimeter. Any questions on how to find the perimeter of a semicircle? Okay, just remember, perimeter is the distance around the outside, has nothing to do with the inside. Let's go on to the next one. I asked you to find the area of a circle. I want you to try to do this one on your own. All right, listen, I saw a lot of excellent work on this. Here's where some people messed up. They forgot to write off to the side to start with whether it gave us the diameter or the radius. What did it give me first? Diameter is 40 inches. So what would the radius be? 20, okay? I know that step seems kind of tedious, but it helps you just to identify what is it giving to me. What is the formula for area of a circle?
Pi r squared.
Okay, I saw quite a few people who wrote that it was this. What's that the formula for? A semicircle. But look at the original problem. Did it give me a circle or a semicircle?
Whole circle.
It gave me a whole circle. So that's the formula we want to use. Rodney, what'd you do after that?
A equals 3.14 times 20 squared.
Very good. And what is 20 squared?
400.
What is it?
400.
400. Very good. When you multiplied that together, what'd you get?
1,256
And what units did you get?
inches squared.
Inches squared. Okay, here's another thing that I saw as I saw people writing things down. Instead of saying inches squared, they said square inches, but they wrote it like this. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's it's square feet. That's cubed.
That makes it look like you're trying to square the number. You don't want to square the number, okay? So if you did want to put square inches, you would just have to instead write out square inches, so it's not mistaken that you're trying to square the number, okay? How many of you were able to get that one? Excellent work. All right, let's first identify, what does it give to us?
Radius.
It gives us the radius is 4 inches, which means the diameter is 8 inches. What's the formula for area of a semicircle?
Equals pi r squared divided by 2.
All right, I had a lot of people who got that original formula correct, but then they kept forgetting to divide their answer by 2. So be careful. Make sure you're following all those little details. What is pi, Hope? Very good. Rome, what is the radius?
4.
4. I've got to square it and divide that by 2. Guys, am I allowed to cancel out the 2's? Why not?
Because squared and 2 is 4.
Okay, squared and 2 are two very different things. What is 4 squared?
16.
16. Did anybody at this point cross reduce? Okay, if you cross reduced, this would become a 1 and an 8. All right, we'll see if we get the same answer as those of you who did not cross reduce. What is 3.14 times 8? 25.12 inches squared. Who would say you got that same thing? Okay, so listen, this step right here is not that you have to cross reduce. It just kind of takes away an extra step of multiplying numbers out. But you can do it either way. You can reduce them if you want, but you do not have to. All right, so the next problems, the two problems here, finding the perimeter and the area of the composite figure. Remember, a composite figure simply means that you are putting two figures together. So the first thing I'm finding is the perimeter. What does perimeter mean? The distance around the outside. So I am only focusing on the outside part, which means I've got to figure out every single length. I do not know this length up here. I do not know this one over here. And I don't know this one down here at the bottom. Is there any way I can easily identify any of those?
Yeah.
Thomas, which one could I identify?
The 4 and 6.
Okay, very good. So this one right here on the left side, what is that?
4.
That is going to be 4 feet. You can identify that because it's the same distance as that, right? Emma, what would the one at the very bottom need to be? This one down here. What's that length?
Oh, wait, no, 6.
6. How'd you figure that out?
Because the line at the top of the rectangle 6.
Very good. Okay, you can see that this is obviously the same length as that. Okay, so that's the easiest way to find. Now, is there an easy way for me to figure out the semicircle? It's not really easy. We have to definitely use our formula to figure out what that last part is. let's discover this first. We are talking about this shape. What shape is this? A semicircle. Does it give me the diameter or the radius of my semicircle? Gives me the diameter. So next to your shape on the right-hand side, I want you to write that the diameter is 6 feet. What would the radius be?
3 feet.
3 feet. Now let's talk through how to figure out what the perimeter would be. What sides do we already know the perimeter is? What did we identify these 3 different sides are down there?
4, 4, and 6.
Okay, very good. So we know we've got a 4 plus a 4 plus a 6. The other part that's the mystery is the outside of this circle. What's the outside of a circle called?
Perimeter.
Not perimeter.
Circumference.
Circumference is the outside of a circle. Did it give me the diameter or the radius?
Diameter.
It gave me the diameter. What's the formula for the circumference of a circle using the diameter? Pi times d. Is this a full circle?
No.
No, what is it?
Semicircle.
It's a semicircle, so I have to divide it by 2. I want you guys to try to figure this one out on your own now. Okay, so we know we've got sides 4, 4, and 6. Now let's identify what this last part is over here. Remember, that's just this distance right here around the semicircle. What do I plug in for pi?
3.14.
What's my diameter?
6.
Divided by?
2.
Can anything reduce?
Yes. 1, 2, and 6.
That could be a 1 and a 3. Okay, how many of you did reduce it? How many of you did not? You'll notice you're going to get the same answer whether you reduce or not, so just stay with me. One side's a 4, one side's a 4, one side's a 6. And what is 3.14 times 3?
9.42.
9.42. So what you just figured out right there, this question mark we had at the top, that distance is 9.42 feet. So now we are ready to add the 4, the 6, and the 9.42. When you do that, what do you get? 23.42 feet. Should I square my units? No, why not?
Because you're not finding area.
I'm finding the perimeter, I'm not finding the area. All right, we've got our final problem of the day. Finding the area of this composite figure. What does area mean? It's how much space this entire thing takes up, right? So we are figuring out all the space right there. In order to do that, you have to identify which 2 shapes are there. What 2 shapes are there? Okay, very good. First, we've got a rectangle, and the order doesn't matter, plus a semicircle. Remember, all of your formulas will have to be memorized by the time that you take the quiz and test next week. Does anyone remember the formula for the area of a rectangle?
L times W.
L times W, the length times the width, plus I have to add in the semicircle. What's the formula for finding area of a semicircle?
Pi r squared divided by 2.
Pi r squared divided by 2. That is the hardest part, is identifying which formulas you need to use. At this point, all you have to do is just plug in some numbers. So I want you guys to try to do the rest of this on your own. All right, the first thing we're going to focus on here is the rectangle. Guys, what is the length of the rectangle?
4 times 6.
Okay, 4 times 6 or 6 times 4. Order really doesn't matter. All right, you could do either one. Plus pi r squared. What is pi?
3.14.
What is the radius for just the semicircle? 3 squared divided by 2. How many of you see where you made a mistake? Okay, follow along. Make sure you're watching to see how you're doing. Let's start now with just the rectangle. What is 6 times 4?
24.
All right, so we know that that is going to be 24 feet squared just for that part. Now let's figure out the semicircle. What do I have to do first?
Do the square. 3 times 3.
Okay, we got to do that 3.14 times the units, the square, or the according to PEMDAS, it's the exponents, What is 3 squared? 9, and then you got to divide that by 2. Okay, so now I'm just dropping down 24 once again for my rectangle. Plus, what should I do next?
3.14 times 9.
What is 3.14 times 9?
28.26.
What? I did not get that.
Okay, if you didn't get it, erase it and fix it. Now let's keep going. Once again, we know 24 has to do with our rectangle. What is 28.26 divided by 2?
14.13.
14.13. Once again, if you are missing it, if you didn't get that part, I want you to fix it and let me know if you have questions. Now as we add those two together, this will give us the area of the composite figure. What do you get?
38.13 feet squared.
38.13 feet squared.
Yay, us, we're just smart.
Okay, so you're going to use those notes to help you for your upcoming quiz. And then remember, tonight's homework, I gave this to you guys yesterday. It's just 6 problems that you'll be working through on 9.3.